today that is trending right now as Trey Lance trending. Off-season workouts with Patrick Mahomes vastly improved. I think Trey is the best that we've seen him right now. In such a better place now than he was last year.
We just got a huge update on Trey Lance, and this could potentially throw a wrench in the plans of the San Francisco 49ers moving forward, at least in regards to who they believe the face of their franchise is. So before we get to the content, we are about 50 subscribers away from 700,000 subscribers. Once we get there, we're going to be giving away $500 to 5 subscribers that have my notifications on for this channel. I want to take a brief moment to thank all of you guys for the incredible support that you've been giving me over the years. I started Mikerophone up in February of 2020 in the middle of COVID because the NBA season got suspended and I wanted somewhere to talk about football as well. And to see it go the distance that it went, to see the beautiful community that we've cultivated together, to discuss football and all the topics that expand beyond football that are very important to the game of football, is just an honor that so many of you guys depend on me for your NFL news and your football news. I know I don't always get it right. I know sometimes I'm prone to messing up, but I hope you guys understand that I take this job very seriously and I am forever grateful for all of your support. Now that we get all that out of the way, work! Can I be honest for a second? The one thing that changed sports for me forever is Prize Picks. Just having a little extra action on the game has made watching games so much more enjoyable, and I've actually been using this to get into other sports as well. A lot of you have DM'd me the amount of money that you guys are making off of Prize Picks, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story every single day. And right now, if you use my promo code Mikerophone, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The San Francisco 49ers pushed all of their chips into the center during the summer of the 2021 NFL Draft, and I can't necessarily blame them. You see, they were just a few seasons removed from Jimmy Garoppolo being depended on to try to make a heroic game-winning drive against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it. It clearly seemed like Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback or an above-average quarterback, but he wasn't necessarily the quarterback that was going to win you games, at least in the moments that you really needed him to. So with that being said, Kyle Shanahan looked at his roster and said, hey, you know what? We have some really good pieces. You know what would make things even better? A new quarterback with a tremendously high ceiling on a rookie scale contract that we could develop from scratch. So with that being said, the San Francisco 49ers agreed to a trade with the Miami Dolphins to get the number 3 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. All they had to do was give Miami its 12th overall pick and a first round pick in 2022 and 2023 and a third round pick in 2022. If you're giving up that package for any player, I mean any player at all whatsoever, you better be sure about who you want to pick. Well, if we're being honest, it seemed like the San Francisco 49ers were anything but, because when Kyle Shanahan was asked about who they were planning to target in the 2021 NFL Draft, he would say this.
What was the thought process on going there instead of Ohio State? Why not go to BYU or to North Dakota State?
We have people at all the spots. A lot of people we trust and people we meet with here over the next month. I normally don't like to go to them a bunch unless I feel unless I have to for some reason. But I also have been kind of grown up in the idea that you don't like to go everywhere and show people things. And when you're sitting at 12 and stuff, I don't want to go to a bunch of quarterback pro days and things like that.
Now, very shortly after, we would find out that the San Francisco 49ers would select Trey Lance with the number 3 overall pick. And the plan was very simple. Have Trey Lance sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo for an entire season, learn Kyle Shanahan's very complicated offensive scheme, and then build the team around Trey Lance moving forward. Shortly after drafting Trey Lance, this is what Kyle Shanahan had to say.
Glad that we got our guy. I'm glad we feel so good about it. And I'm just pumped to get him here.
And I want you to understand how significant the trade was that they made for Trey Lance, because one of the picks that they directly traded for Trey Lance was Micah Parsons. No, I'm not saying Micah Parsons would have been a San Francisco 49er for sure, but I'm saying he would have been available at that pick had they not traded up for Trey Lance. 29th pick turned into Cole Strange. The 3rd pick turned into Matt Corral, whose future is in serious doubt. Miami has been very creative with those picks as well. They were able to acquire Tyreek Hill as a result of this trade. They also packaged one of the picks to try to acquire Bradley Chubb this past trade deadline from the Denver Broncos. So it was a very significant trade to make. There was a lot of pressure on Trey Lance to be a very good player, or at the very minimum, be worth the huge haul that was given up by the San Francisco 49ers to trade up for him. And unfortunately, we're not necessarily sure if he is. A lot of people are very quick to say that Trey Lance is a bust. Now, bear in mind, I have a very good friend of mine that's a 49ers fan that drives me insane. I like twisting his nipples a little bit saying Trey Lance is a bust, but if I'm being honest, it's not really fair to call Trey Lance a bust, because so far, the only sample size that we have on Trey Lance so far is the fact that he played in 5 games in the 2021 season, but they weren't necessarily like actual games that he played in. He played in a couple full games towards the end of the season, and throughout the regular season, Kyle Shanahan would throw him in for a play here and there just to be cute, and as a result, Trey Lance would be able to throw some touchdowns. But in his first full season starting, the 2022 season, Trey Lance only played in 2 games. The first game was a sloppy, rainy mess against the Chicago Bears, which he lost, and a lot of people were memeing Trey Lance for that because, well, the Chicago Bears ended up having the worst record in the league. And the second game, he would get injured after completing 2 out of 3 of his passes, and he would be out for the rest of the season. Yes, there was an incident of him at a club making it rain in a very grainy Instagram video, but I think given what we've been covering in the NBA, that isn't the worst offense ever. It's good that the San Francisco 49ers retained Jimmy Garoppolo to take him through the rest of the season. It was also even better that they drafted Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant to finish the rest of the season and take him to the NFC Championship. Brock Purdy's success threw a wrench in the San Francisco 49ers plans, because now we don't necessarily know what the future is going to look like for Trey Lance. You're seeing videos like this, for instance.
Several teams have inquired over the last several days, last several weeks with the 49ers about trading for the Trey Lance, and teams could read the landscape. It is very clear that Brock Purdy is expected to be the 49ers starter of the future. They also signed Sam Darnold in the offseason, leaving the number 3 selection. They traded all of those picks to go up and get 3rd quarterback option. That just does not really seem to work. 49ers have fielded the calls. I would also not expect the deal to be imminent.
In addition to that, while Lamar Jackson was still looking for a contract extension, it seemed like the San Francisco 49ers reached out to them in regards to a trade, which if they did trade for Lamar Jackson, you know for a fact that Trey Lance would have been involved.
The Niners have monitored everything, including Lamar Jackson. They've explored that, or at least looked at it. They kicked the tires on that.
Hell, you even had John Lynch admitting point blank that he reached out to the Baltimore Ravens about it.
You're not doing your job if you don't look into things. A lot of those things, I think you're limited by the way our roster's set up, and what's your motivation? And while those players, there's more than just Lamar. Tremendous players, MVP type players. We really like our guys. We like where we're at. We like our complete roster and how they fit. For multiple reasons, and we're excited about that group. So,
which brings us to the situation we're in now. You're all caught up at this point. Brock Purdy recently went through Tommy John surgery. We don't necessarily know the type of player he's going to be once he finally is able to play football. The San Francisco 49ers no longer have Jimmy Garoppolo. He plays for the Las Vegas Raiders now. Instead, they signed Sam Darnold. And the one player that we have very little clue about his future is none other than Trey Lance. What's going to happen if Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are available? What happens when Brock Purdy gets healthy again? Is Brock Purdy the same player still? Are they pulling the plug on the Trey Lance project? What if Sam Darnold's good? I know it sounds crazy, right? Imagining Sam Darnold good, but Sam Darnold's only coaches so far was Adam Gase on the New York Jets and Matt Rule. So Kyle Shanahan is the first really intelligent, offensive-minded coach that Sam Darnold has ever had the opportunity to play with. Hell yeah, Christian McCaffrey praising Sam Darnold. So if Sam Darnold turns out to be a good player. Well, lost among all of this is the fact that Trey Lance has been very, very focused on improving as a player. He's been working alongside Jeff Christensen, a private quarterback coach, and in addition to that, he's been working with the reigning NFL MVP, Patrick Mahomes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, check this out. This is coming to us from an article via The Athletic, which we trust on this channel, by a man by the name of Matt Barrows, titled, "The 49ers' Trey Lance has made a substantial jump working alongside Patrick Mahomes." It starts by saying, when Trey Lance takes the field for OTAs next week, he'll look different and throw more efficiently than the version of Lance who began last year's spring practices. So say Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and Jeff Christensen, the private quarterbacks coach who analyzed Lance's throwing motion and worked with him earlier in the offseason. In a phone interview with The Athletic this week, Christensen said that Lance's biggest breakthrough came when he stood behind his most famous client, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, and watched him throw. Which is insane, by the way. Could you just imagine if a quarterback coach brings you to a football field and shows you the best quarterback in the entire league and says, hey, watch this human throw the football, and then tries to teach you how to throw the football just like Patrick Mahomes? I said, watch this. Watch what he does here. It was something I was telling him to do that he wasn't quite doing. And then he saw Patrick apply it perfectly. And I think that visual buy-in, that mental buy-in helped him get past that mental hump. And to his credit, he just keeps getting better. He continued over the last 7 days. Every day was a substantial jump. This is very significant because accuracy was not necessarily Lance's strong suit over the first 2 seasons of his career in the very small sample size that we saw. And it was a huge knock on him coming out of North Dakota State University. He completed just 54.9% of his passes over his first 2 seasons. But also, you need to understand that one of those games, especially last year, was in the rain versus the Chicago Bears. But this is still consistent with Trey Lance. It's been following him around since North Dakota State University. It's worse than what Brock Purdy was able to do last year, 69.3%, and Nate Sudfeld, which is 73.5%. And now Trey Lance has an opportunity to take back his starting position because currently Brock Purdy is viewed as the San Francisco 49ers quarterback of the future. But spring practices is going to be led by Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and Brandon Allen. Kyle Shanahan noted that injuries have played a big role in Lance's delivery. He broke his right index finger in the 49ers preseason finale in 2021, which affected him the rest of his rookie season and which bled into the spring period last year. He was making progress as a thrower when the regular season began, but then suffered a broken ankle in the first quarter of week 2, ending his season. The finger and ankle are no longer issues. He was able to get such a better base in these last 2 months that I think Trey Lance is the best we've seen him right now. Yeah, we've got to get into OTAs and practice, but when you watch his feet, his timing, how he's throwing the ball, he's in such a better place now than he was last year at this time. Christensen said that Lance's retooled motion also has addressed another long-running issue, which is arm soreness. When they first started working together in early March, Lance's arm would become tender after 3 days of intense work, and he'd need to take a day off for rest and treatment. That doesn't happen to quarterbacks who have the right technique, Christensen said. For example, he's been working with Aiden O'Connell since O'Connell was 12, and he's never had to ice his arm. By the end of their time together, the problem had improved. Christensen said his lessons with Lance, which were held in the Dallas area, wrapped up with a particularly vigorous session, one in which Lance threw 150 balls. The quarterback left for the Bay Area that night certain that he was going to be in pain the next day, and I called him when he was in San Francisco on Saturday at noon, and he thought for sure his arm would be killing him. And I said, okay, how's your arm? He said, I cannot believe I woke up and it was not sore at all. Christensen also credited Trey Lance with being eager to learn and push himself through the awkward phase every passer experiences when he's trying something new. It's a different feeling and it can be kind of weird and it can be kind of scary. And so it's a whole different feeling when the ball leaves your finger. To his credit, he slowly kept applying and kept believing. This is very significant. I highly recommend you guys check out this article because Trey Lance not only seems very motivated to come in and take back his starting QB position and be the player that the San Francisco 49ers are building around, but it also seems like he's developing way quicker than we thought. If you remember, when he got injured last year, the top concern was the fact that this was a year where his development was going to stall. This was a year where he wasn't going to be able to play any football. How are you going to improve as a passer if you're not able to plant your foot as a result of the injury he sustained? And the fact that he understands the situation at hand, the fact that he understands that his career is on the line here, and he is this motivated to retool his motion, watching the best quarterback in the NFL throw and consistently working at it before OTAs even start. Man, this is very significant. I can't wait to see Trey Lance throw at OTAs because that's going to be really exciting to see his new throwing motion, and we'll compare his old throwing motion to his new throwing motion once that content comes out. So make sure you're subscribed and have our notifications on, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.